Welcome to BARI Banter, where we talk everything bariatric surgery with the people that know it best, the patients. I'm Shannon, and I'm here with my co-hostess with the mostest,
Alita. So sit back, relax, and remember, sip, sip, sip.
Well, welcome back to another episode of BARI Banter. What a week this week has been, just quietly. Lots going on.
We have a new setup for those of you watching on YouTube, a new little BARI Banter setup.
And it turns out I have a new girlfriend.
Yeah, that too, I guess.
That was like,
I was working into it.
I just drop it
had
like a
my
top.
eyebrows done, had a new setup for BARI Banter. Oh yeah, and I got myself a boyfriend.
Yeah, just quietly. But it's one of those things I was saying to you earlier. It's like, because we spent 3 years being best friends. And I think we both kind of knew that eventually we would probably end up together. I know personally it was not a case of anyone else but you, but I was kind of getting myself in a headspace to enter into a relationship. But that was like when we dropped a post the other day, just to kind of say, we're together. The response was crazy.
Epic. Yeah, crazy.
And it was almost like, and that's what we said at your parents' house yesterday, it was like we're getting engaged. And I was like, or getting married or something like that.
Yeah, Dad was like, welcome to the family, Shannon. It's like, he's just my boyfriend. We're not married, guys.
But as I say to you yesterday, it is kind of one of those things, because I see it, I say my next relationship was my forever relationship, and I feel like with you it actually is. So, without getting too deep and like stooky. But no, for me it was like, it does feel a little bit like that, because, I don't really want to get married again.
I don't want to get married, you know that.
Yeah, so for me, this means more to me than a marriage. Like, I don't need a ring to tell me to be loyal.
No, I don't need a piece of paper to say that we're going to spend forever together.
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting dynamic. No, nothing has changed, to be honest. It's like maybe the floodgates are open a little bit emotionally for me, and I'm a lot more like, because I'm a words of affirmation, I'm very open with my words. I've been saying to Alita like, I appreciate you, I love you, like, you're amazing, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, you're coming across a little clingy here, Shannon. Maybe
cool it off, buddy. Cool it off.
Because that's like,
I love it.
Yeah, but you're words of affirmation, but you're not words of affirmation. Like, you don't.
I don't express it back to you. I find talking very hard.
But yours is gifts and stuff. So
no,
like,
it's not. Mine's quality time.
Gosh.
Gifts. Are we about to have our first domestic?
No, but it's like your gifts, because like times like I grab you a flower or whatever, and like that, so you would just want someone to know they're thinking of you.
Not physical gifts, but just thoughtful gifts.
Yeah, just to know someone, like, you're being seen.
Yes.
Yeah. Where I'm what I work out mine was words of affirmation and
quality
physical
time and physical touch.
But not so much like the sexual side of things. It's like the hand holding and the touching and the hugging and that kind of aspect of it. But 3 years. How do you feel about taking the...
Been a long time coming, I guess. Like, I don't know. I always knew that I didn't really want to be with anybody else except for you, but I also knew that I wasn't quite ready to take that plunge, if that makes sense. Like, just needed to. I think I said it the other day in one of my story replies. Like, we both knew that we'd end up there eventually, but we had to grow as individuals before we could become a couple. Just so happens that we grew as individuals together.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, because that's something I was going to get back to, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about it a little bit later, but like I learned a lot through you, and I grew because of you. Yeah. Because a lot of, like, you were very, like, on a lot of things you were over here and I was over here, and by letting down my ego and be willing to learn and stuff, you were able to teach me a lot of things about not just yourself but about me.
Yeah, and I'm the same with me. Like, I'm the same, really. Like, I don't think that I'd be doing half of the stuff that I'm doing if it wasn't for the fact that I had you pushing me and encouraging me and putting these crazy little thoughts into my head as well. So yeah, we've definitely grown as individuals,
over
but
3
together.
years. I think that was the thing that my ex-wife actually goes, you realize you guys have been hanging out for 3 years, Shannon. Do you not feel like, because I was really struggling with the whole jumping that barrier, because I was very fearful of, like, what if I got hurt again? Because I know with my ex-wife, been together for 10 years, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, I don't want to get back there, because that was what caused my low point. And I was like, but then we went out to the Gold Coast, and I wasn't super proud about this moment, but seeing you on a dance floor, like, being kind of touchy and whatever with another guy.
Flirtatious with another guy.
Flirtatious with another guy really triggered me to go, I think it's going to hurt me more to lose you than you could possibly do any other way. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, it was like the hurt of watching you leave or be with someone else would probably hurt me the same, if not more, than if we did the same thing, 10 years down the track.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, I just had to start what was the thing I said the other day? Start appreciating, stop worrying about the what ifs and start appreciating the what is. And that was for me. I just needed to take the leap because at the end of the day, I've always said I'd rather get to the end of my life and regret the things I do and not the things I didn't do as a calendar falls off the wall. But
and then he took me on a date.
I did, to mini golf, and you kept everyone guessing with your little thing. And
had a bit of fun with it.
that's what I said to you. I'm like, people are going to get it. Like, who's comfortable enough on a first date to
get a boomerang taken?
You're like, hey, first date, can you just maybe take a...
Welcome to my life. If you can't take a boomy of me, then it's not going to work out.
Hashtag Insta life. But yeah, apart from that, I'm excited for taking the leap. It feels good. It feels very, like as I said, it feels comfortable, and I almost feel like a weight has been lifted now that I can just go out in public and hold your hand, or whatever it is, like show you acts. Because that was my thing. I never wanted to, because I didn't know where I was at, and I didn't know if I would ever be ready for a relationship. So for me, I was always keeping you at arm's length because obviously I didn't want to hurt you. So I didn't want to like give you the wrong impression and then be like, oh no, can't do it, see you later. So I always kept you, I felt like I kept arm's length, wasn't super affectionate, didn't say a lot of things because I was like, as much as I wanted to, I didn't, purely because I didn't want to, feel like I was leading you on to a destination.
For any of those who know Shannon as well, he likes to have it's like he's got 3 people in his brain, and he has like a conversation in his own little brain about everything.
It's called ADD. Yeah.
And he just has, I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah, we had a conversation on the Sunday after I got a little bit jealous, and I was like, I just went around in circles, and I was just like for 3 hours just because it was
driving back from the Gold Coast with Shannon in his own head but speaking out loud. God, that was fun.
Yeah, it is one of those things because I try to answer my questions verbally out, because that's one thing I've been trying to get out is like communicating things, because with my ex obviously I didn't, and now I've become an oversharer. So it's just like, you want to know what's in my head? Just ask me. I will tell you.
Well, in all fairness, somebody did say on the weekend that they've been together for 3 years and they're now engaged. We've been best friends for 3 years and we're now in a relationship. So I think we did it the right way.
I feel like, that's why I feel comfortable. Like, nothing's really changed. We've built a really solid foundation. And I think that's really important to any relationship.
And everybody's been watching it evolve and develop and blossom. And it's been fun.
Well, that was like the other day someone said about like putting the post down, and I was like, I felt like I wanted to, purely because the weight loss community pretty much started it for us.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of go through it a little bit after about, how we met. And
well, maybe we should,
introduce the guest. Yeah. Bring the guest in.
Yeah, bring the guest in.
Do you want to bring the guest in? All right, I'm going to do the introduction this week. So this person had their operation in April of 2018. Starting weight was 127 kilos. At their lowest, they had lost 60 kgs. To say this woman has accomplished a lot, and she's someone I'm very excited to get on, because I want people to understand this person in depth and understand why I fell in love with this person. It's obviously Lita. It's Lita. Also known on Instagram as finding_Lita_X. See, did that without any paper or anything, you know?
Did anyone would think that you've known me for 3 years?
I know. She had an operation 2 weeks before me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 weeks before me. Yep. Yeah, so let's just get into it. Let's find out who Lita is. You ready?
No, I'm not, but let's do it.
So let's do the question you asked me when you interviewed me. Who was Lita at school?
I was overweight. I wasn't a popular girl. I wanted to be a popular girl. I was a floater. I called myself a floater. So like I had 3 or 4 really close friends. But I also changed schools from grade 9, and I did high school at a different school. Primary school, I would come home crying almost every afternoon from school because I'd been bullied. People used to call me like a liter of milk, which when I was in primary school, that was like really like hurtful to me. Like now that's how I introduce myself to everybody. But like I used to always get picked on. I used to be bullied. I hated school carnival because I'd always come last. Like it was just, I wasn't a fit kid. I was an overweight kid. Like I started gaining weight when I was like 10 years old. So like all through primary school, it was not ideal. Went into high school and I had a good group of friends, but then my friends started going down a path that I didn't really want to go down. Drinking and smoking and all that sort of thing. And I didn't want to get caught up in all of that. So we changed my school and I went to a private school. Look, I had some great friends at school, but I was still always the one that got picked on. I was still bullied. I was overweight. I used to get called names. I came across confident. because I could talk to everybody. And as I said, I was a floater. I'd go from group to group. Like I'd hang out with the drama kids. I'd hang out with the boys on the oval and play, like kick the footy or, but I fit in, but I never fit in. And I was always bullied.
So you're really
always.
trying to fit in. And do you feel like you changed who, like do you look back at school and say you were being you? Or do you feel like you were trying to be what other people wanted you to be?
No, I get anxiety when I think about back at school. But like, no, I wasn't trying to be anybody else. I was me. It was just that I was trying to spread myself too thin. I think I was trying to find where I belonged, where I should have just been happy with my one or two close friends, but instead I wanted to be the popular kid. So I was trying to do, like, I was never a different personality, so to speak, but I would definitely do things that I wouldn't normally do if it wasn't for the situation that I was in. Like, for instance, like, I went to a party with some friends of mine, like when I was in year 12, and I had a few drinks, and one of my friends was dating an older guy at the time. And so they came and picked us up from the party, and we went down to Malula Bar and had a few drinks at Malula Bar. And the boys jumped off the loo with a view. If anybody knows the loo with a view, it's quite high. It's probably about 5 meters high.
About 5-6 meters.
And the boys just ran and jumped off into the sand. And I thought that would be a great idea. I'm weighing like 110 kilos at the time as well. And I've just run and jumped off the loo with a view, fractured both of my ankles, dislocated both of my knees. Like,
oh, wow, good job.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, I landed and just went, like, because when you land, you're meant to bend your legs and take the impact.
And then move forward, yeah.
Yeah, no, I just went, bam, straight onto my knees, face planted it. And then I had to pretend to be okay because the next day when Mum was like, how was the party? I was like, oh, I just fell down some stairs. Because I was trying to be, like, I was still being myself, but I was trying to do...
An emphasized version. Yeah, you wanted to be like, you didn't want to be the person who was like, look, Lita's not doing it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And
so personality-wise, I've always been the same, but I think I've definitely been swayed by the people around me. Like, I'm easily influenced, I guess you could say.
Yeah, well, you are very much an empath too. Like, that's one thing I've noticed about you over the last 3 years. You don't so much, like, we had a conversation about this, like, multiple times for the last 3 years, is where you've had to learn to say no. Even now, these days, so much as school, it was you were led by other people's opinions. Even as an adult now, you do feel like you are still led by people's opinions?
Not necessarily led by people's opinions. I just don't... I've had this my whole life. I don't want to disappoint people. And I don't know if it is because I've always been striving to fit in and striving to make other people like me, that I just don't want to let other people down. I don't want people to be disappointed in me, and I don't want people to... It's not so much that I'm led by their opinions. I just don't want people to be disappointed in me.
Yeah, I think it's pretty human though. Like, I think everyone kind of cares to a certain degree, especially like influence. Like, I care what you think of me, and I care what my mum thinks of me. But then, people who hate me on the internet don't really care what they think, you know, as much as I used to. These days it's kind of become like waters off a duck's back. But, I think you still care, but it's not every person that you meet.
I've started to have to just say to people, like, I get Thursdays off, and I used to be like, okay, getting up and I'm going to go do bar class with such and such, and then I'm going to go have coffee with such and such afterwards, and then I've got to do the washing and clean the house, but then somebody will message me and be like, are you free? And I'll be like, yep, sure. So I'll drop everything. And I end up seeing 4 or 5 people in a day, and then by the end of the day, I need another day off after my day off because I've just done so much. Like, it's not necessarily that I'm trying to... I just don't want people... Yeah, I just want, people... Yeah. I just want to make sure that everybody's happy. Yeah. Like...
You are like that, and like that's... Since being friends with you 3 years, everyone goes, oh, you free this weekend? And I'm like, I'll get back to you after later. Because you, at one point, I felt like we just had something every weekend for like 8 weeks, running here, running there. And I was like, kind of like, it wasn't so much even the weight loss, and, it was just like, this person needed you for this, like, park run thing or that. And I was like, we need to kind of like just have a weekend for, to chill. Yeah. Sooner or later.
Well, it was like weekend before last, we were in Gold Coast. Weekend, like last weekend, we were in Byron. This weekend, I was like, oh, good, we're not doing anything. We're now going up to my parents' house, which to me is just chilling out, doing nothing. Chilling. But like, it's just kind of like there's always something on.
It's not a bad thing though, but yeah, you're right. Like, sooner or later, you need to sit back and fill your glass.
So the way that I've done it now is I've bought myself a calendar, and I don't agree to doing anything unless I consult the calendar. And I've got it all, me being a Virgo, I've got it all color coordinated. So pink highlighter is work, blue highlighter is fun, green highlighter is like slightly more fun.
What color am I? Do you make mine?
You don't get a
black.
You don't get a mention in the calendar.
Okay,
sorry.
fine.
Yeah.
I'll make myself in there. So for you, were you overweight during all of school, or was it kind of like?
Yeah. So we started. Mum and I spent ages trying to figure out just when the weight started, and I think it was when I was about 10 that I started gaining weight. And I can't remember being anything less, like even as a 10-year-old, I reckon I was close to like, the 75, 80 kilo mark. And I'd fluctuate. So I had no problem losing the weight. I'd go on a diet, I'd lose the weight. The minute I stopped that diet, I put it all back on plus some. So I literally spent my entire teenage years yo-yo dieting and trying to exercise and trying to lose the weight. And yeah.
You were someone who has done a lot, like even hypnotherapy and like every drug under this, not like weight loss drug, let's just clarify that.
I've done
but
Duramine, I've done the HTC drops under my tongue. I've done Weight Watchers. I've done Jenny Craig. I've done the chicken and broccoli diet. One thing that I never did, though, was count my calories because that just takes up too much of my life. Like,
I think it's definitely a skill to counting calories. Like even I find it hard sometimes to understand exactly what's in certain things, especially if you buy like something pre-done and like have to break it down, and there's definitely an art to it. But
there was one point in time that Dad and I we were on a diet together, and it was the drops that you put on you, and I think they're called HTC or something. Oh, I don't know if they're the marijuana drops. I don't know.
I feel like HTC was marijuana.
Okay. Wasn't marijuana drops. It was something else that was like a few drops under your tongue half an hour before meals, and it was meant to suppress your appetite and get rid of your sugar cravings and all that sort of thing. Dad and I did it together for like 6 weeks, and we both lost. It became a competition between the two of us to sort of see who could lose the most weight. And I think I ended up beating him by like 1 or 2 kilos. But we ended up losing 20 kilos together, and they were like, yes, this is the last thing. Like, you've done it. And then the minute we stopped taking the drops, it all just came back on. Same as I did isogenics, and I was like, this is the last push before surgery. Like, this is, I wasn't thinking of surgery, but I was like, this is it. And if I don't succeed on isogenics, then, I'm done. And I did it for, 8 weeks, and I lost 20 kilos again, and it was amazing. And then stopped doing it, and it all just came back on.
So what do you think with weight loss surgery? Clearly you've done really well. But what do you feel like you've done differently? Like, yes, you had your stomach cut out. That's different. But like, obviously you're 3 years out now, and you've done really well and kept it off. And
I hate to admit it, but my mother was right.
Oh, jeez.
Mum used to always say to me, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
And I guess having the sleeve has allowed me to adjust my lifestyle, but not rapidly, if that makes sense. So like, yes, I had the surgery. Like, don't get me wrong. When I was like going through my teenage years and early adulthood, I think portion sizes and binge eating was probably my issue, but I would binge eat a salad. Like, I was thinking about this morning on my run. I would take a 2-liter container full of salad to work, and that would be my lunch, and I'd eat the whole thing. So in my mind, it wasn't necessarily, I was being healthy. I don't understand. Like, I'm eating salads, but it's like you're eating a salad that should last a family 2 days, and I'm eating it in one sitting. Or, I'd bake lasagna and I'd just keep on eating because it tasted good. So it's like I wasn't necessarily, I didn't go to Macca's. If I ever went to Macca's, I'd get a medium quarter pounder meal and I'd struggle to eat it. Like, I wasn't eating copious amounts of junk food. I would closet eat, so I'd get my pocket money and I'd run down to Coles and I'd eat my lolly snakes. Like, so I was a healthy binge eater, I guess.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, because that's what we always talked about, and I found it hard to understand how you put on weight. But as time's gone on, I've kind of understood it was just quantity. Like, it was a lot of...
It was constant grazing as well.
Yeah, and I think alcohol for you, and that's like, we've obviously gone, no, we're done with alcohol for now. Like, we're not going to like be done. Like, we have it socially every now and then, but not to the extremes. Like, we've had it. Yeah. And I think that because, as we said the other week, it's like we work so hard to feel good. Why would we be putting this into our bodies and then having that whole morning, the next morning, being like, And
I'll admit it, I've gained a bit of weight in the recent weeks. Nothing to be too, like...
Yeah, but like with the 3 weeks that we've had, I kind of went, alcohol.
Because like I've stopped exercising pretty much for the last month. I've barely been exercising. I've still been drinking, but I've been drinking more than what I normally would. And I've been eating slider foods like, cheese and crackers and twisties and eating out because we've been going and doing things. And then I get on the scales and I'm like, oh, hang on, I've gained weight. And it's like, well, what's changed? literally all of my good habits that I've put into place, I've stopped doing for the last month. So it's not rocket science to figure out that I've gained weight.
And I think that's a handy thing, understanding that where you're going, because at that today you've like just gone boop, you know, like back onto, you know, go out for a morning run, go for the morning, like we started doing the morning walks, and just because sometimes you have to do that whole like back, pull yourself head in, you know, get back into the game, because at the end of the day, it's easy to now though, because I feel like it's become very much like, I was waiting for you to say like lifestyle choices, like, because now you enjoy certain things, I enjoy certain things, and I think that's one thing we've really found mutual on, is finding those the things that we can do on a constant basis that we enjoy.
But that's what I mean. Like, that's what I mean though. Like, Mum always said it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change or a lifestyle choice. So like for me, yes, having my stomach cut out has definitely, and I'll always say it, the first 30 kilos I lost was definitely down to the sleeve.
Yeah.
But the second 30 kilos was, you know, down to my lifestyle choices and what I was doing and running and choosing the foods. Like, we went vegan for a little while, and even though meat started like creeping back in again, you know, I'm the lifestyle choices that I was making on a daily basis is what gave me the success. Obviously eating smaller portions, but having said that, my portions are getting back up there again now. Nothing like what they used to be. Yeah. Nothing at all. But compared to 2 years ago, I can eat a little bit more than what I could.
Yeah, and it's scalable, because I had that the other day. Like, I was like, I seem like if I can eat more, like it's probably twice as much as when I first started. But now it's like, if I sat back and went, compared to what I used to have, it's nothing. But like, because your head kind of goes, I couldn't eat that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, wherever it was. So it's like, you know, you have to kind of pull your head back and be like, but it's still
nothing compared to what it used to be.
It's something you need to keep your eye on and make sure you're not overdoing it.
Like, I never used to touch pasta at the very beginning of my journey, but now pasta started creeping its way back in, and, you know, easy. Like, I've just got to make sure that I don't get complacent again, and I think that's what it is as well.
Yeah, I think
getting complacent.
Well, and also, like, be careful. Like, we had a restriction put in, like, I sleeve for a reason, and that was, like, I listened to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about how there's this diet mentality around, you know, a lot of sleeve bypass people go with veganism and other, they called it a diet mentality, because as much as you're like, I'm doing it for the animal aspect, sometimes we're doing it because lighter meats sit better. Yeah. And they'll bypass the sleeve better, or the bypass better. And that's what this podcast is saying. Like, at the end of the day, you paid to have a restriction put in, but yet you're trying to avoid foods that you feel the restriction with. And then, like, so I said that to the other day when we were down in Byron, and someone was like, oh yeah, but I can only have like 3 mouthfuls of this. And I'm like, yeah, but that's your restriction. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you got to almost respect, as much as it sucks, and you kind of go, but I want to eat all that plate. You've got to respect the restriction. Yeah. You know, because we have it inbuilt in our heads, and we're not going to change overnight. We have this like almost self-sabotage mentality where, you know, if you give us hope, you know, a piece of rope, we'll find a way to, you know, do something we shouldn't do with it, you know. Yeah. So I think that was a really bad metaphor, but you kind of get where I'm going with that. But yeah, so you obviously had it 3 years ago. What was it? Did you have that point where you were like, I'm going to go down weight loss surgery? Or was it something you knew about for a while and you're kind of working into it?
So yeah, 3 years ago I had the surgery. Probably about 2 years before that, it would have been 4 years before that. I was working on cruise ships, and an Italian doctor kind of suggested it for me in Germany. And he was like, you know, you'd just be so beautiful if you had some weight. If you had some weight. If you lost some weight. Yeah. He's like, do you want me to write you up a referral for weight loss surgery? You know, you'd be such a beautiful girl, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up taking him to HR, because at the time, like, I was in there getting my knee looked at, and he told me that I'd be beautiful if I lost weight. Here's a referral to get your stomach chopped out.
You were a little bit butthurt.
Oh, I was massively, yeah, I left the ship. That was it. That was the end of my cruise ship day.
And now you look back on it, it's kind of like, you know, and that's what we're talking about.
In hindsight,
there's almost like a subtle way he could have put it across that maybe would have intrigued you more than like, hey, you'd be hot. Yeah. If you chopped out your stomach.
And he was like, I was just trying to be your Italian father. I'd say, you know, I just only said to you what your dad would say to you. I was like, you don't know my dad. My dad wouldn't say it like that.
Was it because his English might have been very limited?
Probably. But like, in hindsight, I probably should have accepted the referral, because the ship would have paid for the whole thing for me, because it would have been referred. But anyway.
Hindsight, hey?
Yeah. But then anyway, I had a friend, Kira, anybody who knows her in the weight loss.
Kira Morrison?
Kira Morrison, yeah. So I used to go to primary school with Kira, and I saw her success story of having, she had the band and then she had the bypass, and I started talking to her and she was like, go get a referral. You like, it's up to you. You deserve the right to at least have the chat. And so I went and I asked my GP, for a referral, and he was hell bent against it. Said, "No, can't do it. Won't let you do it. Like, there's too many risks. There's too many complications. Blah blah." So then I booked a. I said that to Kira. I was like, my doctor said no, and she was like, "We'll go to a different doctor then." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went to a different doctor in the same practice. It was my doctor who she's been my doctor since I was a baby, and she's been there for all of my weight struggles. And I just said to her, "Look, Gabe, I just want to have a conversation and learn more about it and find out if it's right for me." So I went and saw a dietitian first. I went and saw my dietitian first, and then she chatted to me and she said, "Yep, you're the perfect candidate." So I worked with her for a year, and that was my thing. So I joined private health insurance. I went and saw my surgeon, and he told me that I had to wait the year for my health insurance. He didn't want me to use my super. He said I was too young, and he didn't particularly want me to do that. So I waited the year, and I just worked really closely with my dietitian. And at 6 months past sort of joining up for my health insurance, and we tried everything, and the weight just wasn't shifting. If anything, I was getting heavier.
Yeah.
We just said, look, it's time. Just go back and see the doctor and book in a date, and we'll get the whole process rolling so that the minute your health insurance ticks over, you're on the chopping block.
Because your doctor that you saw that was totally against it, you obviously bypassed him to go to someone else, and then you still see that doctor, don't you? How's he feel about, like, have you told him that you had it?
Yeah. He's like, I can't believe how much it's changed your life. Like, he's like, you're a triathlete now. Like, he's now referring. He goes, do you mind?
I was going to say, would he still refer people?
Yeah, so he's like, do you mind if I use you as an example of, like, how much it's changed people's lives? And I'm like, because I guess he was kind of a bit skeptical that, you just chop your stomach out, but that's the end of it. Yeah. But I think I kind of proved to him that it's not, like, it can completely change your life.
And it's come a long way too, from the old days where it used to be like a pretty heinous.
So he used to call me Hoppy every time I went and saw into the surgeon, like into the clinic with him, because he dealt with me the whole time I had all my knee operations, and I'd be in there on my crutches, and he'd call me Hoppy. And now when I go in there, he calls me Sporty. He's like, all right, Sporty, come on in. So I'm just upgrade. Like, it just goes to show that you can, I don't know. Like,
I think it's good though, because that's what I talk about with this community and stuff like that. Like, one person at a time, that stigma's being broken. By your doctor now looking at weight loss surgery a little bit different. It means he might be a little bit different when he talks about it to others, and just one person at a time. And you can break that stigma and make people feel more comfortable about making the decision. So again, like, I want to talk a little bit more about, like, so you had a bit of an addiction to food. Would you say addiction to food? Is that pretty safe to say?
Yeah, I think so. I wanted more. So yes, that's an addiction, I guess.
I wake up in the morning, that's all I can think about. I think it's an addiction.
But it's weird because, like, with one of my ex-partners going, like, way back, I used to make him pancakes every single Sunday morning for breakfast, yet I wouldn't eat pancakes because I don't like pancakes. And then, like, I'd make him peanut butter cups, and again, I wouldn't eat them because I don't like them. So I love cooking. I love food. I still love cooking. I still love food. But I guess my thing was I just wanted more. Once I started eating, I couldn't stop. Yeah. Like, bag of snakes. I would literally buy a party bag of snakes, and I'd be unconsciously eating. And then all of a sudden I'd get to the bottom of the bag and I'd be like, there's no way. How did I do that?
So do you think it was more the taste or the feeling or the control of the food, like being able to eat it all? Like, do you feel like it stemmed from something more than just the taste, or do you feel like it's just...
It starts with the taste. Like, no, it's a mental thing. Like, even when I used to work in a pharmacy, and right next door was Coles, and it's more of like a habit, I guess, because at the end of my lunch break, if I had 5 minutes to spare, I'd be like, oh, I'll just run into Coles and I'll get myself a Freddo Frog or a Caramello Koala. And then half the time I'd go into the shops and I'd buy it, but I wouldn't eat it. And then I'd forget that it was in my locker for 2 days, and then I'd go and eat it. So it wasn't even like I wanted it there or then. It was just a habit and so ingrained into me that...
Because it's also like, and that's what brought it up, because I thought about with you, something we've had to constantly deal with over the 3 years is kind of pushing the boundaries of limits. Like, because like the amount of times, like, I do it, I was doing it as well. Like, you'd be like, you could tell on Lita's face that she was feeling the uncomfortable, like I've just eaten a mouthful too much, and starting to have like and you have to get up and walk away. You've done that a fair bit, and that for me was like, is it based on the taste, or is it based on that there's some kind of mental, like I have to have it all, like it's, yeah. Is there
well, I got brought up with don't leave food on your plate, which is,
Okay.
I think a lot of us did.
Yeah.
Not to, eat everything unless you can't, you have to eat everything, otherwise you won't get dessert.
Yeah.
Or, there's starving kids in Africa.
Yeah, I love that line.
But then also thinking back, there's been so many times that we'll go out for dinner somewhere and I'll be like, oh, we're going to order this, this, and this to share. And you'll be like, no, Alita, we won't eat that much food. But it's the flavors. And like, I love flavor and I love food and I love variety. So I think that like nowadays when we go out, it's more so that I just want to try. I know that I can only have 1 or 2 mouthfuls of everything, but I still want to try everything.
Yeah.
And there's been times where I'll literally put a mouthful into my mouth and I'll chew it for the flavor and then I'll spit it out onto a serviette and chuck it away. Like,
because you do that all the time. Like even the other day, like it was like we got breakfast and got this, and then you're like, you want that other thing as well, and then we end up just throw the other thing out because like your eyes still say
we got breakfast, a coffee, and I got an orange juice as well.
Yeah.
In what mind can I eat half of a breakfast, a medium coffee, and an orange juice all at one time? Like it's not physically possible.
Yeah, we do that all the time. Like I go, are you sure? And then you're like,
yes.
Sometimes you're like, no. Sometimes you're like, oh, no, you're right. If I want it after, I'll come get it. But usually you can't even finish what we.
Oh, and I bought a hot cross bun too for the car ride home.
Yeah.
So I got breakfast, a coffee, a juice, and a hot cross bun.
Yeah. So it's like there's clearly still like, and that's what we say. You can't ingrain habits over 30 years and then expect them to be gone in 3. It's like clearly like little things like that. We constantly acknowledge it and understand why. Like, why do I still have this bond to food? Is it the taste or is it the relationship I have with food?
I can't answer that. I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, like I do it all the time, and I like kind of like I had at that time when you had the pie and you cut the pie. I think it was
a burger.
And then I looked at the bigger half and I'm like, is she going to give me the bigger half or the smaller half? And I'm like, why do I care? I can't eat either half. Like I can't finish either of the halves, but it was still. And I took a bit of time to be like, why? It's like a greedy mentality. And I think it was growing up with family and stuff where it was like snatch
and grab. I'd never heard of that before.
So it's like if it's in the fridge, it's anyone's.
Yeah.
So I was growing up with that. Like if I don't eat it now, someone else will eat it and I'll miss out.
And that sucks because here I am. I plan, here's leftovers. I'll eat that tomorrow. No, Shannon snatched and grabbed it out of the fridge.
And grab. So throughout this process, obviously you've lost a heap of weight. What would you say has been where have you grown or become better aside from the weight? Like what's been the best perk that's come out of this whole process? Apart from me. Sorry, I had to throw that in.
I guess my confidence in myself.
Self-worth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't... Self-worth and also just believing that I can do something.
Yeah.
So like the whole starting at parkrun, I'm not doing parkrun. I can't do that. Why would I want to do that? I know I'm going to fail. Like I don't give myself the chance to fail.
Yeah.
Well, I do because I still go into a race like underestimating myself, but at least I'm entering in the race.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like I used to just avoid situations because I didn't want to put myself in them because I didn't want the chance to fail.
It's funny because you put that as confidence, but I put that as self-worth. I think they go very much hand in hand because like if you're willing to, like even Amy said to me the other day, I went and did that street orienteering and she goes, I just love how you can just go and do stuff. I'm like, yeah, because I kind of have a confidence in myself that I may suck at it, but I'm not going to care.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of self-worth because at the end of the day, I can still go home with my head held high. And the same as you, and I think that plays a lot into it. It's, you can go to things now and your self-worth allows you to because it's like, whatever you accomplish out of that, you're still going to be you and proud of yourself and walk away from the situation not feeling like you lost any little part of yourself.
And without sounding, I don't know the word, superseded or whatever, I think that does come hand in hand with losing the weight though, because now that I'm not 127 kilos, even if I do come last, it's not like, oh, she's the fat girl that came last. Like now it's kind of like she came last, but at least, in my head, nobody would ever think that. But like in my head, when I was overweight, it was like, oh, she came last and she's fat. Whereas now it's kind of like they're just going, oh, she came last.
It's true though, because but then again, it's a bit of hand to hand. But it's like I feel like it is us thinking that. But then like I've heard some people, some comments, and I'm like, whoa, hold on a second, like that's not right. Like
I know 90% of the time we make it up in our own heads, but 1% of the time somebody will actually. Somebody's had to have said something to us in the past for us to think it now. So like, when I was at primary school, I hated sports day because the little kids, we're brutal when we're kids. You're so fat, you came last because you're fat, because you can't run fast. Because you're fat, you can't do this. So of course it stemmed into my adult life being like, I don't want to try because I'm fat, so I can't do it. And I hate, like, that's my truth, really. Like, I was still in the 90 kilos, I think, if not heavier, when we started doing park run.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't want to run because I know I can't run. So why would I put myself in that position? Like, I'll just be the fat person trying to run, and nobody wants to be that person.
Yeah.
But I did it, and I realized that A, nobody cares if I'm a fat person trying to run, and B, you can do it.
Yeah. Like, it's funny, like 9 times out of 10, if I see someone like running or doing something, I feel more of a proud feeling than a judgmental feeling. You know what I mean? Because I know they're doing it to improve themselves. It's, it's one of those things. Like, I always felt more judged in a food court than I did doing exercise.
I was the same. I'd never eaten a food court because I thought people were judging me for, why is that overweight person eating?
I know.
Actually, you know what? I used to always eat Subway and sushi anyway, so that people wouldn't judge me.
Healthy options.
I was weird.
So when we first started hanging out, like 3 years ago, you were in a relationship then. Without going too far into it, like, do you look back at that relationship and feel good about that whole situation?
No.
No?
No. I was in a... I don't even know how to explain it. I was in a... Toxic relationship. Yeah. But I willingly kept myself there, I guess, because I didn't think that I deserved any better than what I had. Without going the ins and outs of it, my partner wanted to be in an open relationship, and me being me was like, I'll dabble, I'll give it a try. And then when I, said that I was in situations that I didn't want to be in, he would blackmail me or gaslight me to keep me in those situations. So like, he would be on Tinder on a profile for me, pretending to be me, and be talking to women for like 2-3 weeks, trying to bait them up for us to have like a threesome. And then the night that we went to go meet them for a coffee, I'd have to sit there like an hour beforehand trying to read the messages to pretend like I'd been talking to this poor girl for 2 weeks. Like, it was just, and then I'd be like, I don't feel comfortable in doing any of this. And he'd be like, well, and he, like, we broke up, and he made me sign a contract when we got back together to be like, if we go to music festivals, I'm allowed to hook up with whoever I want to. If we go out clubbing, I'm allowed to, flirt with other people and cheat on you. And, but it wasn't cheating because I was allowed to, I was allowed to do the same thing, but I just chose not to.
Yeah. Yeah, because we met online, and we met up for lunch one time, and I didn't know at the time you had a boyfriend. I kind of was like, oh, bariatric girl, I want to make a friend. Plus, she's kind of cute. And then we caught up, and like throughout that day and that hangout, I'm going to call it a hangout, I started learning about this, and you were very, and I think that's one thing I still look back at and appreciate about you is you were very like defensive of his actions for him.
Look, and I still won't throw him under the bus. Just because he was into different things to me doesn't necessarily mean that he's a bad person.
But I think what you take away from it is you now know your limits.
I would never put myself in that situation 100%. Again. But and that's what I used to say, I allowed him to cheat on me because I didn't have any self-worth in myself. I didn't think that I could get any better. I thought that if I, did these things for him, it would fix our relationship. And it didn't. And I just kept on sinking in. And then after, as I said, like we started hanging out, we started going to the gym together. And I kind of just went, if I can have a friendship that's this good, my relationship should be the same, if not better.
Yeah.
And then when we were breaking up, when me and my ex-partner were breaking up, I asked him 2 questions, and these were the drawing lines for me. One of them, well, the first thing was he turned around and said, you never end up marrying your best friend. You never end up with your best friend. So, like, I'm as good as it gets sort of thing. And then I said to him, well, am I enough for you? And he was like, what sort of question is that? And I was like, am I enough for you? Will I ever be enough for you? And he turned around and went, no, I'll always want more.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, you know what? If I can't be your everything, then what's the point in us even trying?
Yeah, two lines that like has played in your head a lot, and like you never end up with your best friend, and
jokes on him.
But it was like sitting around and sitting by the sidelines, and like as soon as I met you, and I say this like no doubt in my mind, the first day I met you, I was like this chick's amazing. Like I guess because I came out of a relationship where no offense to my ex, but I felt like she gave up very easily. Like it was kind of like, you know, to be fair, she was into girls. So, but like, you know, I just didn't feel like I got a second chance. I didn't get like, you know, it was just, oh, I'm done. I've fallen out of love with you. See you later. And then I met someone like you, and like I met a few girls, but there was no one that stood out like you, where it was like, wow, like this girl is fighting for a relationship that 9 out of 10 women wouldn't. Like some of the stuff you were telling me, I was like, why are you there? And that's like, it was good because at the time, I didn't want a relationship and things like that, and being able to hang out with you and have that, you know, you had a boyfriend, so we could be friends, and I didn't feel like any obligation for anything further was kind of a safe thing for me. But then also as I hung out with you more and more, I fell deeper and deeper for you, and then I had to fight that for like 2 years to be like, you know, one day I'll end up with that woman, just when I'm willing to give her what she deserves, because I watched you still buy her for like good 7 months or whatever, that you still in there with your ex, and I was kind of just standing on the sidelines, just being like, do you not see it? Like,
so many people say, oh, you know, that person had checked out of the relationship months before we even ended it. But like me and my ex, he hadn't checked out. He was still, he wanted his cake and eating too. Like totally. He wanted me. He wanted me around. He wanted me there. And there's no denying that he still sort of, you know, he loved me in his own weird, twisted way.
Yeah.
And I hadn't checked out because I was doing everything I possibly could to make the relationship work. Yeah. But then when we broke up, he was kind of like, he was shocked because he was like, we didn't even have a fight. Like, what happened? Yeah. And I just said to him, I'm done. I'm done fighting. Like, I can't. It's either you stop doing the stuff that you're doing, or I leave.
That, and you're about to buy a house together.
Oh, we bought a house together, and Shannon was the one that took me out for a glass of champagne to celebrate. Yeah. Like, he was off on a date with somebody else after we literally signed a document to buy a house together. Like. Yeah. So we separated in the 5-day cooling off period of buying a house. Otherwise, I'd still have a house.
Because that was like one thing I was saying, like, you know, are you sure? Like, are you sure? I don't want to put anything in your head, but like, are you sure? Like, and it should
have been a bit of a wake up call for me that when, you know, we went to the solicitor and we signed the paperwork, and then he was like, okay, bye, I'm going to go out for a coffee with another girl. Like, I probably should have.
And he was in shock too, like when you finally called it off, because I think that played against the character that he assumed you were. Yeah. Like where he could get away with whatever he wanted, and then you to stand your ground. He's like, wait, what? You know what I mean? Like, you know, you'd broken up before, and then you'd come back with a contract, and, you know, this is what you're obligated to do as my girlfriend, and
I kept a lot of this behind closed door too, because as I said, like as you said as well, like I still liked him as a person. He was a great person. It's just he just wasn't my person. Like, so I don't want no hard feelings or anything like that. It's just we weren't meant to be together anymore. Like we both wanted different things. Like, but then like even when I was losing the weight, because I remember telling him that I wanted to have weight loss surgery, and he was like, it's just another thing that you're going to fail at. He's like, you start these things, and unless you're going to give it 120%, then there's no point in doing it. So like I'd be like, oh babe, I'm going to start this new diet again. He's like, why? You're not going to give it 120%. Like there's no point in even starting it, sort of thing. Like that's the sort of person that he was. And then, so I had a pair of size 14 short shorts, and I've never worn shorts in my life. And they were my goal pants. And I remember putting them on every week, being like, getting closer. And then I put them on, and I was like, oh my God, look, they do up. And he was like, that's great, but they look ridiculous on you. Why would you leave the house wearing them? And then I went to Paddle and Pink with you that first year that we did Paddle and Pink. And I was like, I wore the damn pants, and I felt amazing in them. And I came home after, and I was in such a high, and I walked through the door, and he's like, why'd you wear those pants out of the house? And then I was like, you know what? I wore the pants out of the house, and not only did I wear those pants out of the house, I got a photo for the newspaper in those damn pants. So, like, you know, be supportive, mate. Like, it's not that hard. Well,
because that was one thing, like, Handmaid's Tale that we've been watching. I know. Like, so many good little hidden messages behind that movie, like that show. They say a lot of things, as much as the concept's, like, crazy. The one thing they said was females are very adaptive. And, like, every time that line comes up, I'm like, I think of you in that situation, and it became your norm. And that's like why I always say to people, like, understand your worth. Like, I understand some situations are different to others, but like, you know, that situation, for example, you were making all the excuses for him and being adaptable. Like, you were adapting to the situation, the environment that he made for you. And that's like, you know, when we first entered into this, it's like been something that I've been saying with the relationship. Like, your happiness matters the same, if not more than mine. Like, I want you to say no to me if you need to. Like, and that's like, because that's been something over the last 3 years. We've really, you know, been trying to like, I don't want to make it sound like you're, and I said this the other time, someone was like, you know, she's not a project. I'm like, no, but she's my best friend. I care about her. And for me, I always, over the last 3 years, was almost preparing you to enter back out into the dating world, because I was like, I may not ever be ready for a relationship. Where I was at, I was so scared of commitment and stuff, that I was preparing you to not get in that situation again. Like, because for me, standing by and seeing you with another person would be hard enough, but then seeing you with someone like that, where you'll be taken for granted again, I would be like, no, like, that's not okay. Like, and I think that's why I asked the question, because I wanted you to, like, I can see it plain as day. The person I met at Yumcha is nowhere near the person that I'm sitting next to now when it comes to like self-worth and confidence, and this, like, the way you...
No, but when I'm, I was 127 kilos, my partner wanted to, he would literally go on a date with another woman, and he'd go, sorry guys, if you don't want to hear about sex talk right now, just tune out for a second, but he'd literally go on a date with another woman and come home smelling like their perfume, and then he'd want to come home and have sex with me, and it was a compliment. He'd literally say, no, but I saved myself for you so that I could come home and we could be together. Which in my eyes, that was not a compliment. That was...
it was.
Yeah, that was his way of complimenting. Yeah. But it was just kind of like, to me, it made me feel like an object, I guess, like a useless object. But for him, he was like, oh no, I saved myself. But in my mind, I'm ugly, I'm overweight, I don't arouse you anymore. You want to go out with other people because we can't even have a conversation with each other anymore. Like, I literally was at home to cook and clean and be your object.
Handmade. No. Yeah. But no, I totally do get that. And I just feel like the person you are, I can see how you got in that situation, but it's not okay either way.
And it didn't start out like that. And I used to say to him all the time, I'd be like, in your past relationships, was this a thing? And he would be like, no. And I guess this is where he could play into my insecurities and stuff like that, because I was gaining more weight and I was becoming like less and less of an outgoing person, and I was, my personality was changing. And he said to me, well, no, my exes, if they said no, they said no. And I was like, well, why can't I say no? And he's like, because you've told me that you're willing to give anything a try, and now that you've tried it once, so we might as well keep on doing it. And as I said, we broke up and he made me sign a contract again when we got back together. But that's how desperate I was to belong to somebody or feel like I fitted in or feel loved, or I don't know. I honestly just didn't think that I was going to get any better than that.
Yeah, crazy. That is insane. Well, that's one thing, and like people find it really hard to understand. Like, you're best friends with my ex-wife. Like, I'm good friends with my ex-wife. I feel like you guys are actually better friends than what we are now.
She's actually coming over for dinner tonight.
Yeah, she is. But like, that was one reason why I really, like, at the start it was a bit awkward, but then I really wanted you guys to hang out, because
polar opposites.
When it comes to that, like, that girl was saying no before you've even asked the question, and with you it was like, I wanted you to hang out for two reasons, for her benefit and yours. I wanted her to soften up through you, and then you to harden up through her. Like, because it's like, and you guys have done that. Like, you guys have become best friends purely because, like, you can build her up in your way and she can build it your,
I'm an empath towards her and she's the opposite to an empath towards me. Like,
yeah. No, so that's been, I think that's been really good. And I think it's been good for both of you. But yeah, for you going forward then, Lee, like, do you have, like, you've done some crazy stuff. Can we just go through a little bit, by the way? I'm just going to go off the top of my head. You've done sprint try. You've done, you did the 21K at Blackall. You've done half marathons, 10Ks, 5Ks. Oh, what else have you done? You've done swim legs for team tries. What else has there been? You did BARI try. You've done in 3 years.
There's quite a few medals hanging out there on the wall.
Yeah, literally. You've done every fun run that every person could ever. You did the pink try. You've done like endless amounts of stuff in 3 years. Like, would you be, think about before you started this, like, weight was purely, I'm assuming, main focus. Would you assume that you would have accomplished you've accomplished over these last 3 years if you
hadn't have met you?
No, I think you, with the fun run, but then saying that, like, even I wouldn't have, before. I think we've been kind of done to each other. Like, you've given me the confidence and being my safety blanket for a lot of things. Like my first park run, for example, I was petrified. You were petrified, but we were petrified together. Yeah. So it's been kind of like, and that's why I'm like, everyone just needs a BARI friend. Like, who could, like, come on, let's go to this thing together. Kind of like kindergartens, how they hold a hand. Or like, let's just go into this together. Because as much as you say, you wouldn't have done that stuff without me, I don't think a lot of that stuff I would have done without you. And then also because, how many times have we slept in the back of your car going to park runs or triathlons or whatever it is, we've been there for each other. Yeah. Like, do you feel like you're happy with what's happened in the last 3 years, especially with like what you've accomplished, and do you hope to keep going with it?
Yeah, 100%. Like, honestly, it's hard to say I wouldn't be where I am if it hadn't been for you, because I always did boot camps and I always did the little challenges and all that sort of thing. So it's always been in me. But yeah, like I'm over the moon. I never thought that I could accomplish as much as what I've accomplished. But my favorite thing, and this is gonna sound, I don't know how it's gonna sound, but like honestly, my favorite thing is just being there to support other people. Yeah. Like I'll still 100%. I'll put my own PB on the line to help somebody else get theirs. Yeah. Like we were talking to Kel on the weekend and she was like, remember that time that I came up here and you guys like helped me run a sub 40, and she's now running like a 36-minute 5K, like, or, you know, being there for Deb's 50th park run and just like it's.
And 100.
And
100?
Have we been there?
I think she had 100 not long ago. Yeah, but
I
yeah.
can't remember.
Yeah.
But like it's, you know, and running with your mum and Vivka every weekend and just, you know.
Well, that's what came to mind, because like there was a point in time where you were like, I actually haven't ran my pace in a very long time. It was like 9 weeks or something. You were pacing for someone, doing this for someone else, you know, running with this person, doing this, volunteering. You know, there was like actually a patch where like you were being so selfless at your own. Like, because you're like, oh, I really want to have a crack at this, but I haven't actually ran my own time in so long, which is good, like, because, again, plays into your empath. Like, you're the biggest empath I've ever met in my life. Like, your heart is bigger than this room. But, like, you know, at some points, I feel like from my mindset, was like, yeah, but, like, what about your goals? But I feel like your goal is other people's goals.
Yeah, 100% it is. Like, and I'll be running all the time, and I run comfortably between a 6-minute and a 6-minute 30 pace, and I know that I've got more in me, but why do I need to have more in me? Like, I'm not the kind of person that I'm never going to be first. And occasionally I'll run, like that time that Vivka brought her friend to 5K your way that morning.
Oh yeah.
And I ended up running like a 28-minute again, because it was just kind of like I had somebody that I could hold on to the back of. But I don't want to do that every week. That's so much effort. But like, I'd prefer the joy that I got from running and getting a PB from her. I really enjoy other people getting that as well.
Yeah.
Like other people's happiness brings me happiness, which is what you say all the time. Yeah. Like, but I don't know. I was running again this morning for the first time in 2 weeks, and I was actually thinking, like, I would love to just get out there one day with you and just see, you know, jog for 500 meters and just to warm up, and then just go, all right, let's pick it up. And for me to just sit on your heels for as long as I can for a K, like just run a K for the hardest, just to see
what I can do. Yeah.
Like, just I wouldn't be able to hold it for 5Ks, but I'd love to be able to see
just 1K.
1K, just how fast I can do it.
We should definitely do that.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely have goals for this year coming. Yeah. Like I'm signed up for the half marathon, the Sunshine Coast Half Marathon. I'm pretty sure in a couple of weeks' time, Blackall comes. The tickets go on sale for that. So I'm going to do the 50. Like that's my biggest goal this year, 50. Which means that I've got to get back out to trails, and I've got to get back into the trail running sort of thing. I've flicked the switch again now, and there's no more excuses anymore. Like, you know, I had my sore knee, I had my eyebrows, I've, you know, been a little bit, you know, helping other people, and I'll still help other people, but it's time for me to focus on my goals again and start running and start doing things and get back on track.
Yeah, well, that's not going to take much, like, to get back out there. Like, it's even the morning walks and stuff like that. But apart from, like, you know, do you have any other goals, like, weight-wise? I'm assuming, are you where you want to be? Do you want to turn up more?
Apart from the few little kilos that I've put on in the last few weeks, but that'll come off.
As soon as, like, we know, like, it's not about flicking a switch. It's about flicking many of a switch.
I think Zashua said it in her episode too. Like, obviously we're going to fluctuate weight here or there, but then, you know, it's when you sort of start gaining the 5-6 kilos that you kind of go, well, hang on a second. That's not fluctuation. That's actually a bit of a weight gain. So, which is where I'm at the moment. So I just know that I've got to snap back into it and implement it. And obviously I've been having my fertility issues where things are starting to get better there, like my fertility issues. And I've been working on that for the last couple of months, since maybe September, October last year.
How is that all going?
It's getting better. So for those of you who were playing along on Instagram, my FSH levels at the sort of middle to end of last year, they were so low that I was actually postmenopausal.
Wow.
So I was getting my period every 2 weeks, which is what sort of got me into going to see the gynecologist.
Yeah.
And then it turned out that my hormone levels were so low that it was almost like I was I'd already gone through menopause.
Wow.
And the only reason why I was getting my period was because I was taking a pill.
Yeah.
So I spoke with the gynecologist and we worked a few things out. And then I got retested again in January, and my FSH levels have risen again. They still weren't perfect in January, but they were getting close to being back to where they needed to be, because she changed my pill and put me on a hormone thing and all this sort of stuff. So they've gotten back up, but we tested my AMH levels, which I didn't know that women are actually born with however many eggs, and then every month they lose eggs. So like with men, you guys have obviously got a sperm count, but it constantly replenishes. Yeah. Whereas women, I never knew this, and I might be a bit daft in the area, but I didn't realize that we were born with a certain amount of eggs and we shed them, and once you've gotten rid of them, they don't come back.
You're down to how long worth of eggs?
So I was down to 18 months worth of eggs, which now is about 16 months worth of eggs. So my AMH level, for my age, which I'm 32, for my age, it should be sitting between sort of 20 and 25, and I'm sitting at 10. So I'm literally half of what I should be. So according to like the little chart thing, my ovaries and my egg count, I'm actually a 45-year-old woman.
Wow.
So my chances of...
You don't look a day over it.
Yes. So I was talking to a lady the other day who worked in a fertility clinic, and I was talking, we've been discussing egg freezing and all of that sort of thing. And she said to me, I said, I'm going to come and book an appointment to see you because I want to freeze my eggs. And she was like, do you have a low AMH? And I was like, yeah, I'm at 10. And she was like, well, you probably should have came and seen me yesterday. Like meaning like the longer you leave it, the harder it's going to be for you. And we were chatting, and I said to her, well, I want to go freeze my eggs. And she was like, freeze your eggs? Why don't you freeze an embryo? And I was like, she goes, do you have a partner? And at this point in time, I didn't have a partner. And so she was like, freezing embryos are actually, it's a lot more likely to succeed. And it's, because if you pull out the eggs, not all of those eggs so you might ballpark figure, because it's not 30 eggs, but you'll scoop out a batch of eggs, and you might not even get one good egg in that batch. Whereas if you freeze an embryo, they keep on figuring it out until you get an actual embryo that is like a living embryo, so to speak, and you freeze that embryo.
Yeah.
So I was going down that pathway now and sort of seeing if I can freeze
that was a conversation we had that played a big part in why I pursued more, because you came to me and you were saying about how eggs, you couldn't get Medicare rebate, it was going to but you wanted to do it, and then you talked about the embryos, and then I automatically went, you can have my sperm, like to fertilize the eggs. And like for me, I was like, what? Wait, what? And then I was like,
because that essentially means that if we don't end up together, we're going to have a mini baby Shannon
and
somebody else is going to be the father.
Was, for me, that kind of went to me, okay, I want more, like, because I went, but that would be weird if you worked with someone else and then it was my baby over there. And it played a part in, like, I talked about this before, where I kept pushing you away to a degree because I'm like, I'm not ready to, get into a relationship with you, but you need to be a mum because you have a heart. And like I said the other day, I kept saying you need to be a mum, but it was more, a kid needs to have you as a mum.
Yeah.
Like, because you would be an amazing mum. And that played a large part of, like, I clearly want to be with you, and I'm the cluckiest man in the world. So for me, I'm like, why don't we just pull the pin on, like, pull the pin? No, that's the opposite one. But like, why don't we not just make a go with the relationship? Because, you've got 16 months of, freezing embryos or doing eggs. And I'm like, well, why don't we freeze embryos as a couple and then we could try and see how things go. Because that's obviously something, I feel like we both want is to, pursue the lines of having
and
a
I
baby.
would love to be able to do it naturally. So
yeah, well, that's kind of where we went with it, is like we want to take the precautions just in case a second one.
Yep.
But obviously in the 16 months that you have left, we would love to conceive one naturally.
Yes.
But yeah, so like I assume we talked about this earlier today. It's like when you're interviewing a guest, you already know the answer, but it's like, are you hoping to fall pregnant over the next year or so, or?
Yeah. Well, look, I've just spoken about my goals of doing a half marathon and doing Black Hole 50. Secretly, I'm kind of hoping that push comes to shove and I sell both of those tickets, because I'm hoping to be pregnant sooner than that.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, like I thought about this the other day, like some people would be hesitant. Like my sperm isn't great. I don't know yet. But like when I was bigger. I had it tested when I was with my ex, and it wasn't like they just said it was a small amount, like it wasn't the best quality. So for me, like, I'm sharing this openly, like I want to have a baby with you, but in all possibilities, you know, you don't have a lot of eggs left. My sperm may not be great. It may not happen, but I personally want to share this experience and let people know that we are going to be trying and talk people through the process, because at the end of the day, if we don't have a kid,
it wasn't meant to be.
You know what I mean? Like, and by taking the steps now, it's gonna, you know.
Look, when I was before weight loss surgery, when I was a different person, before weight loss surgery, we thought I had polycystic ovaries. So the idea of me even being able to fall pregnant then was quite, you know, slim to none.
Yeah.
I ended up falling pregnant with my ex-partner and having a miscarriage. So again, that's going to play into this, us falling pregnant this time too, because if you've had miscarriages, blah, blah, blah. So like the odds aren't really in our favor.
No.
So I don't have polycystic ovaries anymore. I now have issues with my eggs and my ovaries and all that sort of thing. You might not have very good swimmers. We're on borrowed time. Literally, we've got 16 months until I'm all dried up and that sounds so gross. But like essentially, we are going to a fertility clinic. It'll be tomorrow by the time this comes out.
Oh, yeah, tomorrow.
And so we are going to a fertility clinic next week to just sit down with somebody and find out what our options are. Because I know I want to have a kid with you. It's funny, prior to this, I was neither here nor there. If I could have kids, I could have kids. And when the gynecologist said to me, you might not be able to have kids, I wasn't fazed. If it's not meant to be for me, it's not meant to be for me. And then when people were kind of like, oh, well, you know, why don't you freeze eggs and stuff like that? And in my head, I was thinking, well, if Shan's not going to be the father, like, I don't really want to have a kid, like... And then so when I was talking to, get like all emotional, when I was talking to my parents about it before you and I got together, and I was like, oh, well, you know, Shan and I might go and freeze an embryo. Dad's immediate response was, well, will it be a Cobb or a Taylor? And I was like, well, if I'm a single mum, because I could defrost the egg, so to speak, the embryo and become a single mother, like it would be a Cobb. But then I was thinking about it. I wouldn't do that. Like I don't think. Yeah. And even if it was your embryo, if I got with somebody else in the future, I still don't think that I would have done it. Yeah. Like I don't know. It just felt right.
It did. I know. And that's like we went from 0 to 100. Like as soon as like, you know, we made the decision. Like let's give this a try. Like I don't want to lose you. It just went, though, kids, great. Let's do it. Like you know what I mean. Like it's kind of like because we built the foundation we did. It feels right. Like, because like I had to ask myself the question, you know, do I want to have a kid for selfish reasons? And I told this today, like, and at the end of the day, no, I want to have a kid because I want to actually raise a human, like a good human, and especially with you, and like if they can have like a little bit of both, where it's like, you know, I look at you and I think you're an amazing human. You have so much to offer a child, so like. It's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Hopefully it's more like you, but that's why I keep saying girls. So it's more like that. But yeah, I think it makes sense to move forward and see where it goes. But yeah, I don't know. I think
I'm going to be more than open about my fertility.
Same, I will be
with
like
IVF, and I think
if my swimmers are swimming backwards, I'll share it.
Yeah, I think it's something that, as I've said in previous episodes, it doesn't always get spoken about. And I've had a few people reach out to me and ask me, you know, what blood tests did you do? Like what made you go and get it all checked and blah, blah, blah. Like part of the reason why my gynecologist thought that I was having issues was because I had rapid weight loss and because I was exercising too much. And the reality of it is that sometimes people have weight loss surgery to fall pregnant. And if it's something that could hinder it, I'm not saying that that's what hindered it. Like there's a lot of things that play parts in the whole situation. But yeah, I'm more than happy to share the whole process and let everybody know what's going on.
I think everyone needs, because a lot of people entering into weight loss surgery want to, you know, conceive a baby or have a baby, and like weight might be holding them back, and you know, having these other options, because it may be straightforward. It may be like, wham bam, thank you ma'am, baby, you know, but it may not. And then going through the whole lab procedure, I think would be really good for people to understand, you know. And also it's a lot of guys to sit here and be like, oh, I had bad swimmers. You know, it would be a very demasculating thing, but it'll
actually be very interesting to see if now that you've lost the weight and gotten fitter and healthier, if your swimmers would be bigger, faster, healthier, more of them. I don't know.
Mate, I think the biggest issue you got with my swimmers is they may not find the egg. You know, we're not the smartest. They're like, they pop out of the ear hole and they're like, oh, I took a wrong turn again. Damn it.
Damn it. Missed it again this
missed
month.
it again.
Try again.
Yeah, we'll do it next month. But yeah, I know it's exciting. But, you know, if you had one tip to pass on, wait for the day, like watching you get emotional, that was getting me emotional. I like totally lost my train of thought. But, you know, if you had one bit of information for a bariatric patient just entering into this or, you know, a few months in, what would it be?
I guess it would just be, there's so many different, just believe in yourself, I think. Like,
don't limit it to one. Like, if you feel like you want to go with a few, you can. Because I know you're probably like, oh.
No, but like, believe in yourself because obviously you've got to believe in yourself to trust that the process is going to work.
Yeah.
You've then, once you've taken the step to have the surgery, don't compare yourself to other people. So again, believe in yourself. Believe that the path that you're on is the right path for you. Don't, like, of course, it's only natural for us to compare ourselves to everybody on Instagram and compare ourselves to other people who hear on Bari Banter. Like, it's natural. But if you believe in yourself wholeheartedly the whole time, you will end up doing what's right for you.
Yeah.
And again, like believing in yourself, like I was talking about before with parkrun, like I didn't want to do it because I didn't know, like, you know, I might have been the last person or I might have been the biggest person there, but unless you have enough belief in yourself to give something a try, you're never going to do anything. So I guess just trust the process, don't compare yourself, and believe in yourself.
Yeah, believe in yourself is a good one because usually it is trust the process, but believe in yourself and believe in the decisions you make.
Yeah.
And then go forward with that confidence.
Because I'm the most indecisive person in the world.
Yeah.
So, like, for me to actually make a decision to have that surgery done, like, I was trusting in myself and believing in myself that I would do the right things later in life to make this work. Like, so just trust yourself and believe in yourself. Back yourself.
Yeah,
Back
because
yourself.
that plays a lot of mental impact too. Like, it's the same as like people talk about those tablets where it's a placebo effect. You know, if you believe it's happening, it will happen. It's the same as if you trust in your abilities to get the job done or do something, then you're more likely to achieve it than not.
Yep.
So yeah, great advice. I do like that a lot. Do you have any other wise little thing, or should we wrap this up?
I think we should probably wrap this
Wrap it
up.
up.
I mean, me and you can chat for forever.
Yeah,
so.
I know I'm like sitting here being like, there's so much we didn't touch on, but I feel like everyone should get a little glimpse into Alita. And, you know, she is she's a very vast array of things. I don't even know how to put that. Like, you're not a simple being by any means of the imagination.
I don't live inside a box.
You have a lot of context, a lot of things that you've done over your life, a lot of lessons you've learned, and even through this bariatric journey, you know, I just feel like you've made the most of it. Whether it's, you know, barefoot trekking through a trail on a trip out west, or whether it's going to a park run, sleeping in the back of a car, like you've really just got out there and tried to understand you and your journey and what makes you happy, and I think it's really shown because you've done incredible.
Thanks, buddy.
And you're pretty hot.
Thanks, boyfriend.
All right. Before it gets too smoochy, guys, thank you again for tuning in to Bari Banter. Make sure you go show our guests some love. Make sure you show previous guests some love. Let them know that you heard their episodes, you enjoyed certain things.
Good.
But yeah, that is another episode anyway, guys, of Bari Banter. Well, yes, that is another episode of Bari Banter in the books. We hope you got a little something from that one.
Head on over to Facebook or Instagram and check us out, or go to baribanter.com where you can watch past episodes, give us feedback, and let us know who you want to hear from next.
We love you all, and as always, please stay beautiful.